Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. And today we are talking about business. Now, in the first step, the last video I did, probably by the time you read this I may have done others, but was step one. Okay, and in step one, we talked about this funny little issue, and we have a problem. Welcome to live radio, live video, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I'm not going to go back and change that because I am not perfect by any functional stretch. So, and I'm betting dollars to donuts, neither are you. So we'll start with the first issue, okay? The last video on step one, I told you point blank, I suggested, I shouldn't say told, well, some people would say, however you're running your business, that's technically up to you. Well, it's literally up to you. These are just tools to shift your thinking so that you can be more successful so you can get back on track. Now, on step one, it was suggested that you put this neat little sign down. Okay, and in answer to the question that some of you are going to look at, yes, this looks very much like the last video in a lot of ways, because quite frankly, I'm doing them back to back to stay on track myself. So, did you by any chance get this sheet of paper in your office? I have legally attained a minimum of $2,000 by 11:59 p.m. April 30th, 2020. Now remember that 2,000 is whatever your bottom line is, whatever you have to make to cover your overhead, to cover your rent, your utilities, any wages, and let's not forget you get wages as well. We'll get to that. Okay, is to cover all of that, including your insurance and your transportation, shipping, everything combined. What do you require per month to run it? That number fits right here. And this applies to whatever city you're in. Now, understand, if you're looking at a different country, I know in Canada and the US we talk in dollars. Pardon me, I don't know what the denominations are in the other countries. Okay, but the principle still applies. Whatever your denominations are, that's the number that you're looking at. The second thing that it was suggested, and these are both critical steps, your policy book. What is the policy that you have? Why did you make it? And what is the date you made it on? Now, hopefully you've gotten both of these. Well, that was really poor English. Hopefully you have put both of these practices in operation already. Those are the first two steps before you even get the door open, and this is where it applies to even brand new businesses. Are you venturing out on your own? Okay, are you opening up a business? Is your dream to run a business, whatever it is? Is your dream to open a new business, to work for yourself? Now, I like the way it was put to me one day. An entrepreneur. Now, this was a definition I was told. This is not what's in the library or in the dictionary. It was told to me that an entrepreneur is someone willing to work 16 hours a day for themselves so they don't have to work 8 hours a day for somebody else. Now, the funny part about it is, if you enjoy what you do, it will not feel like work, which is where it becomes critical that you get things organized so that you're doing them in a functional fashion. Because, and I can tell you this from practical experience, I'll get caught up doing something and forget entirely about other things that have to be done. So this is where it comes to that other funny little thing. And yes, I'm turning around again. I've got stuff behind me because I don't know about you, but my office desk is nowhere near big enough for what I work with. And, here's a little extra funny part for you. Well, I find it comical. When my publicist turns around and watches these, she's going to say, well, put it up on the screen because my computer I'm working on a laptop, but I have 3 screens up here. And you'll come to think of it, that wouldn't be a bad idea. But she'll tell me, well, you should have put it up on the screen first. Think it through. Well, you remember that thing about my saying I'm not perfect? And trust me on this one, my publicist has an absolute fit with me on occasion because I'm not the easiest person to work with. I am headstrong. I can give you all sorts of problems or sorts of obstacles that my publicist has to face. Okay, and the reason I'm referring to them as my publicist is I do not use anybody's name without their go ahead, and I haven't actually talked to them about it yet. But that is on my list. Now, one of the biggest things, and if you're wondering what I'm writing down here, okay, the neat part about this is you take a look at, and this can be done on a sheet of paper, on a scrap of paper, doesn't matter. Okay, you put three things down on a list. Okay, write them down, what you're aiming at. Okay, and these are things that have to be done. And where do you start? The biggest problem with transforming anything is, where do you start? Well, if you recall, in the last video, in part one, I mentioned that you don't have to know where you're heading. You have to know where you are and what you're not content with. So take a look at anything you're not content with, anything that you know has to be done. Cut it down into 15-minute to half-hour jobs. Okay, and the reason for that is by putting it down in 15-minute to half-hour jobs. It does not take long to get them out of the way. If, on the other hand, if you try and set something up, like let's say for instance, and I'm sure if you look over my shoulder, you can see boxes sitting around and what have you. Welcome to my life. Your office may well look very similar. Okay, but you'll notice there are boxes on the table behind me. I've got to get it sorted out. I've got to get my shelves cleaned out and what have you. Again, it's a question of organizing. But trying to do all that is going to take me hours. I mean, heck, it's taken me weeks already. It's likely going to do the same for you. Okay, so what I'm doing here while I'm talking to you is writing down the things that I have to get done. Okay, in order to get things on track. Okay, now, the reason for three, I could put a list together. Have you ever tried putting a list together? I gotta get this done, I gotta get that done, I gotta get the next thing done. And it can get really overwhelming. Not only that, but if I were to list off everything I need to do, frankly, it would take me 6 months to get the list put together. I made the mistake once of trying to list out all the little parts I needed to do to get my house in order. I ended up with a 4-page document. Well, I don't like reading to start with. I mean, you think about it. I've got the most bizarre, in my eyes, the most bizarre and yet most entertaining job on the planet. Okay, here I am talking to you. Now, am I some major mogul? Not yet. But the only difference between me and any one of the major companies is I'm at the starting point. Okay, so what I'm doing is the tools that I'm offering you are the same ones that I'm using, the same ones I have used for other people, because being a professional psychic, a spiritual guide, I am also a speaker on UFO phenomenon and UFO technologies, as well as a published author. I have currently got 4 books in publication, working on, well, quite literally, I'm working on 34 others, so I can get lost in my work pretty quick. Now, let's not forget, I also have a family to run. Like I said, I work from home. So what I've done here is, simply put, now you're certainly not going to see it. Okay, well, I'll show it to you. I'm just not going to keep it there. You'll notice I've got 3 things written down here. At least I think you can tell. Okay, when you get one done, and I've done the one video I had for today, so what you do is scratch it off, okay, or check it off. It's complete. Okay, Once that is done, once you've checked it off, immediately add a third item to the bottom of the list again. Okay, and I'm not expecting you to be able to see what's written. Okay, which begs the question, why show you? Well, interactive video? I don't know. You figure it out. Now, the reason it was put to me to stay at 3, and this was shown to me originally by a very successful business person, and I called it very successful. The man was pulling in $500,000 a month. So I'm thinking this qualifies as successful. Understand, to me, successful is real simple. And if this applies to you, if you agree with this, that's great. Okay. You take a look at success. Talk to somebody that has done it successfully. You know, people used to say and tell me, talk to your dad. Well, I have this funny, bizarre idea. You know, money is not my goal, but I would like to have enough money coming in that I don't have to worry about next month's paycheck or next month's rent. Okay, now it's an easy number to set. Look at $1 million a year. Now, quite frankly, if I made 50,000 a year, I'd be happy. But I'm looking at $1 million, and people kept telling me, "Well, talk to your parents. They're running a business." My parents, as successful as they were not millionaires. Therefore, they are not the people to talk to about how to get there. Okay, because if they knew how to get there, or if it mattered to them enough, they'd have talked to them. You know, they'd have gotten there. So much for English. I don't even know if that's actually a real word. I should look it up at some point. I know I use it a lot, not necessarily a good thing. Okay, talk to somebody that has successfully got to where you are aiming to get. For me, I'm looking at this point. I'll settle for I'll settle for 50,000 a year right now as a starting point. Which, by the way, brings us back to this funny little thing, where I put the issue of make a minimum of $2,000. Now, for me, that's a starting point. Once I get to that point, I will up the number to something else. So you put your list together, put 3 things on it. When you have them, okay, when you get one done, check it off, write down a third. The reason for it. Now, I know you can't read it, but that is primarily because it's not showing you. On this list, I did, what I have here literally is video business part 1. That was the last video I did. I am right now doing video business part 2. And I mentioned to you that I have to talk to my publicist. So I've got written on my list, talk to publicist. Okay. And I should have written about name use, so that I know what it is I have to get done. That will be done as soon as I can. I just have to wait for them to surface. After that, I've listed, and you'll love this one, for those of you that get started real early, bad idea on occasion, but I get started, and I have a tendency of getting started before I get breakfast underway. So I've got listed my next thing. I just checked off, I've done video part 1. I've just added breakfast. When I get done this video, right, it will be one of the important things I get to. Okay. Very, very important to get things organized. Now, for any of you that do paperwork, the bane of all businesses, I'm certain of it, it's the one thing I absolutely despise, which is probably why I'm not really good at it. Okay, and again, it has created more complications by not being organized than I can tell you. Now, this funny little thing here, I like my coffee. It's that simple. I always have one here, or almost always have one right beside me. But you'll notice my coffee cup is a whole lot bigger than most. It saves me the hassle of having to get up and go and get it often. So, with that in mind, the reason that I'm putting this video together, that came out really well. Not really. Understand, I'm doing this as best I can in the order of necessary priority. This is why I'm talking about the list, because here's the thing with the list. If you take a task that you figure it's going to take you 2 hours to complete, okay, first problem, you have to find 2 hours that you're uninterrupted so you can get that done. Now, if you get it done, that's great, but what happens if you don't get it done? What happens if you get sidetracked? Well, here's the way it plays out, and this is based on over 40 years of doing this, based on over 80,000 clients I've dealt with independently. Okay, what happens if you don't get that 2-hour project completed? Well, here's where your problem is. If you don't get it done, now you have to modify it for your own business, but working in the office, this works. If you don't get that job done and you get called away, you walk away, now you come back, you feel like you didn't get anything finished. So you got to find another 2 hours to try and gamble and get that done. Okay. If, on the other hand, you break that job down into 15-minute to half-hour jobs, what you end up with is you get one job done, you get called away. Well, they're all 15-minute to half hour, so you only have to find 15 minutes in the day to do the next job. Okay, that becomes a whole lot easier. Besides that, let's say you get 2 of them done, right? Like the list that I've got. Let's say I get 2 of them done and I get called away. I still have a record that I have accomplished something today. It isn't a wash day. Okay, well, I've got to do that too, but that's another issue. Okay, make sure that you break the jobs down into 15-minute to half-hour jobs where possible. Now, I will tell you, for those of you watching me that are in construction, that isn't going to work. You're going to have to look at it from a day to day. Okay, because you will spend more time putting the list together than you will swinging hammers. Put the list together. That's your next step. Okay. Once you do that, now this particular video I'm doing today, like this is I gotta check my date. Gives you an idea of what my day's like. This is April 5th. The first video, part 1, I put up today. Now, much as I've written this one today, it will be going up tomorrow morning. Okay. Now, with this in mind, get that list together. 3 things. Don't worry about that. 3 things. Okay. On the list. 15-minute to half-hour jobs. When you get one done, check it off and add a third one to the bottom of the list. In this way, you will constantly have things to do. You will know what you're doing, you're staying organized. Okay, and again, now this is your homework for today. Okay, to get those 3 jobs done and start working with it. If you do this constantly, when you go to bed at night, you close the office, okay, you pack it in for the night. In the morning when you come back to the office, you've got your 3 things listed. Okay, you've already got your jobs laid out. This works out really, really well. Okay, and you don't have to trust me. It doesn't hurt to try it if what you're doing isn't making you happy. These are tools that many people over the years have used. Give it a shot. So, we're going to wrap this up today. So, until we talk again, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sake, stay positive.